And it's now my pleasant duty to introduce my colleague from Southern Africa, in fact, from Zimbabwe, which is a neighbor to Zambia, Dr. Lindiwe Sibanda, who is the CEO of FANRPAN, which is a policy and research network based in Southern Africa. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture and Animal Production from the University of Alexandria in Egypt, a Master's of Agriculture in Grassland Science from the University of Reading in the United Kingdom, and a PhD in Agriculture and Animal Production, University of Reading, United Kingdom. And she has extensive experience and competence in skills with public institutions. Lindiwe, thank you.
Thank you and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to share with you my dream for an Africa that is food secure and free from hunger. And today we celebrate the return of agriculture into the main agenda for development. Agriculture is a fundamental instrument and option for spurring growth and reducing poverty and hunger significantly in this new millennium. The key to moving away from hunger is about knowledge. Most of the knowledge that we need already exists, but we are not talking enough at the right places. We are not sharing, we are not learning from each other. Most of the dialogue is happening at global level, and very little is happening at the local level, in the African communities where it's needed the most. What do we need to do? We need to facilitate linkages and partnerships between government and civil society. And here, when I talk of civil society, I'm talking about the farmer first, because those are the producers of our food. I'm talking about the research and technology community, because without them generating knowledge and evidence that's needed for our policy processes, our policies remain politics and they are not providing a conducive environment for investors. And that leads me to the third key player, the private sector. We need active business communities that can generate, invest in the developing countries, and make the technologies user-friendly and affordable for our communities. Let me take you to my own village, where I have a grandmother who owns 1 hectare of land. She's using this mainly for her staple food, which is maize. And the only seed that she has access to easily is the recycled seed. Hybrid seeds are available, but they can only be bought in town and only if remittances are sent to her by the children who work in town. With the credit crunch, which has not spared Africa, there is no more remittances. So recycled seed will be what's available. Fertilizer is beyond reach at prices of up to $70 US a bag. You're talking of a farmer who is earning less than $1 US a day. So what that means is that the yield that she can get without interventions, without help, is less than 1/10 of the prescribed recommended rate. How can Africa move out of poverty with the majority of women who constitute 70% of the farmers yielding, producing 1/10 of the potential yield? Ladies and gentlemen, there is need to meet these farmers halfway. Our governments need to provide subsidies. Now, subsidy has been a very bad word in the past, but we are happy to see that it has come back to the fore because we are celebrating successful subsidy cases. And I think for Africa, it's not about subsidy. It's really interventions to meet the farmer halfway. We have poor infrastructure. You cannot get the inputs in the rural areas unless you pay twice what it costs to get a bag of fertilizer for your transport to get to town because the roads are impassable. Now, what we need are businesses, agro-dealers who can set up shop in the rural areas such that the inputs are available at the doorstep of my grandmother. What we need is a conducive policy environment where government provides incentives for business to set up shop in the rural areas. And what we need is researchers who can improve the knowledge available on targeting. Now, what do I mean by targeting? When we talk of subsidies, there has been a lot of wastage where everybody who lives in rural areas is eligible to get 1 bag of fertilizer and 10 kilograms of seed. The donors have cried foul because what has happened is seed and fertilizer lands in the hands of those who want to buy soap. Therefore, they sell the seed, they sell the fertilizer and go and purchase their basic needs. We are talking of researchers going out to collect data that will allow us to target and improve the allocation of subsidies to those who are in the business of farming, so that we know exactly that the food aid goes to the welfare cases who cannot produce their own food, and the input subsidy goes to farmers who have 2 hands, who have a hoe, who are able to go out to the land and utilize the inputs. Let me share with you the Malawi success story. In Malawi, you are talking of a country which has moved over the past 5 years from a net importer where 5 million people were hungry in the past 5 years and government had to depend on food aid. President Bingu wa Mutharika 3 years ago came into power and he took a bold decision that every farmer in the rural areas would be given a bag of fertilizer and 2 kilograms of seed. What has happened? For the past 3 years, Malawi is a net exporter of staple food maize. It is feeding Zimbabwe, it is feeding Swaziland, and this year the World Food Programme will be purchasing from Malawi to distribute food aid to the region rather than bringing in maize from other continents. This is a success story. What is behind this? Bold leadership, policies that are transparent, multi-stakeholder workshops which allow government to be informed about what is happening in the rural areas, active business in the form of agro-dealers who have set up shop in rural areas. But what is still missing is information. We still have information in the form of written paper, but we need to invest in technologies that utilize the oral culture of Africans to make information, extension, research evidence more affordable and accessible in the rural communities. But most important, our governments need to learn to demand evidence for policy development. We need think tanks in Africa that can inform policy processes. The farmers are in the center, the private sector is key, but most important, government has to develop policies that are evidence-based. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lindiwe.